actually been skipping this card because he's going to get it. Thank you very much. What's your name, sir, and where are you from?
Humanities. Pete Martino from Epsom.
Thank you.
You don't need this. You really don't. I was a colonel. I'm a retired colonel in the Marine Corps. I saw a sign back there that said, we want more Mayberry and less Fallujah. And I spent a year in Fallujah. And you know what? When I first got there, I didn't have armored Humvees, and I traveled over 10,000 miles over there. And sometimes you got to deal with and go with what you have. And so that's part of the job, for one. The second thing is, though, when I was in Iraq, I was in charge. I was the Ministry of Defense coordinator. My job was to man, train, and equip the Iraqi army in Al-Anbar, Najaf, Karbala, and Northern Babil provinces. And I can tell you right now, well, somebody had the great idea to get rid of the Iraqi army, so when we rebuilt it, we did everything we could to make it as strong as possible. And I'll tell you right now, Homeland Security would kick their butts in a week. What's happening here is we're building a domestic military because it's unlawful or unconstitutional to use American troops on American soil. So what we're doing is we're building a military. My best friend, who's a SWAT officer in Nashua, who came to Iraq with me to train the Iraqi police, sent me an email with a picture of him in the media on the streets of Watertown, Mass, wearing the exact same combat gear that we had in Iraq, only it was a different color. And the way we do things in the military is called task organization. You take a command and then you attach units to it in order to accomplish the mission. What's happening is Homeland Security is pre-staging gear, equipment, consistent. What they're trying to do is use standardized vehicles, standardized equipment. I saw a picture in the Boston Globe during the marathon bombing where there was a state police officer, actually there were two officers, they both had identical helmets, flak jackets, weapons, everything I wore in Iraq, only it was all blue. The officer on one side had a big patch on his back that said Massachusetts State Police. Another officer next to him, his patch said Boston Police. And so what we're doing here, and let's not kid about it, we're building a domestic army and we're shrinking the military because the government is afraid of its own citizens. The last time more than 10 terrorists were in the same place at one time was September 11th, and all these vehicles in the world wouldn't have prevented it, nor would it have helped anybody. So I don't know where we're going to use this many vehicles and this many troops. Concord is just one little cog in the wheel. We're building an army over here, and I can't believe that people aren't seeing it. Is everybody blind? That's all. I'll take
Please, I know it's a passionate issue, but if you please, for the first time, I'm asking you not to boo or clap one way or the other.
I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
My wife always told my kids there's always free cheese in the mousetrap.
All right, Ray Fitzgerald.
I've asked him numerous times to please exit the area for his safety, and he's refusing to do so.
I'm breaking no laws.
All right, you just go ahead and go.
I'm breaking no laws.
I'm
Trespassing at this time.
Yes,
I am not. This is public-owned property, and I am not trespassing.
Sir, look, I'm asking you to leave.
All right, and what law am I violating by standing here?
Trespassing.
This is public property.
This is city property.
This is city property owned by the public, and I'm breaking no
All right,
laws.
well, now I'm telling you to leave.
Why is that?
I'm telling you to leave.
And give me a reason for that.
1305, 1305, 25 down here in front of the road.
Give me a reason that you're asking. Hey, wait.
Now you are. All right.
Really?
Yep.
Seriously? I'm breaking no laws.
You asked me what?
We
You
have-
leave public property?
This place has been permitted out for our use along with our.
It's not private. You cannot take my property. Well, hey, thank you for serving, man. I appreciate it.
Back up! I told you once. I'm not going to tell you again.
For those of you that don't know, I'll bring you up to speed that FEMA and DHS signed a contract with Russia to send troops here in the event of an emergency. It's no big secret, but we have new information on what they're doing here. They are buying nearly 600,000 AK 7.62 by 3.9 millimeter caliber rifle magazines. That's a huge stock that they're looking to purchase. People were like, well, what about ammunition? Well, here's the ammunition. 2 million rounds to be delivered to Camp Stanley in Texas of the same caliber. You also have a little over 500,000 going to the Bluegrass Army Depot. And you also have 9x18s that have been purchased. On top of that, people are like, well, what about the weapons? They're taking anywhere between 200 and 286 Kalashnikov AK-74 assault rifles. They are taking large, heavy machine guns. They're taking backup parts for them, mortars, rocket launcher tubes, everything that they can get their hands on. They're buying, and they're saying that the purpose for this foreign weapons program is to procure a selection of fully functional foreign-made weapons to support classroom training. Don't think so. You don't need 600,000 clips with 2 million live rounds of ammunition. Plus, for in the classroom. This is crazy. This is a massive amount of Soviet and Russian ammunitions and weaponry coming here. And if there's an emergency and Russian troops get here, they're going to have ammunition and they're going to have weapons that they are familiar with. And large purchases like this keeps it out of the hands of other people to buy as well. I'll leave links as always. Eyes open. Dabu7. Peace.
And we both agreed to consult closely, may be able to move forward on a dialogue that allows us to resolve the problems.
And we agreed to emphasize our interaction on all the directions.
Я очень благодарен президенту за очень подробное обсуждение и за очень откровенный разговор.
Russia's equivalent to FEMA, signed an agreement with FEMA to, quote, exchange experts during joint rescue operations and major disasters. This, according to the Russian Ministry for Civil Defense website. The Civil Defense website, however, goes on to discuss something that appears to be much more sinister.
The President wants to relax me with his statements that the HCs.
Thank you.
Russian so-called experts will be engaged in, quote, monitoring and forecasting emergency situations, training of rescuers, development of mine rescuing, and provision of security at mass events. This last line, that of providing security at mass events, has many people worried. We are talking about events like the Super Bowl, the Boston Marathon, and so on. Consider this. Russia, a country that is in effect our enemy, of which the NSA Edward Snowden controversy has exemplified, could next year be providing security at the Boston Marathon. We must remember that the Boston Marathon terrorists, Jakhar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, were Chechens with close ties to the Russians. After the Boston Marathon bombing, Having the Russians take part in security would be like the fox guarding the henhouse. This is, in effect, colluding with the enemy. Where will it end? If Russia will be providing security at so-called mass events, why not at smaller events? A high school prom, a local farmer's market, perhaps even a private party. Will there be any event safe from Russian security forces? And what about the so-called major disasters, the main function of these so-called experts? What will constitute a major disaster? We know during Hurricane Katrina, the local police were confiscating guns. New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin famously uttered these chilling words: "No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons. Only law enforcement will be allowed to have guns." Guns were illegally confiscated, countermanding the Second Amendment. Here, New Orleans police confiscated weapons. We can easily see if Russian experts were brought in during a disaster, we would have Russian so-called security forces. Let's call them what they really are, Russian soldiers, on American soil confiscating guns from American citizens. Let us also remember that after the Boston Marathon terrorist attack, de facto martial law was declared in the Watertown and surrounding areas. Looking for the unarmed teenager Jakar Sarnaev, hundreds of militarized police conducted illegal house-to-house searches. Citizens were taken into custody without being charged with a crime. If a de facto or declared martial law took place, would these Russian soldiers be alongside their militarized police? Would there come a time when the Russian soldiers were actually the ones in charge during the martial law?